Can you rebuild trust? I am 45 and my wife is 38. We have been married 12 years now and have 2 sons, 9 and 7, and we live near Atlanta. About 2 years ago I found out that my wife had been having an affair with her cousin's husband. It had lasted over a year. They live up in Syracuse, New York, and he is a trucker whose route is Syracuse to Atlanta. I am an airline pilot, Navy veteran, and until then I had thought our marriage was fine. She was a good wife and loving mom. We rarely argued and everything seemed fine to me. She had been having her cousin's husband stay in our home with her, sending our boys on sleepovers and such when he had overnight stays. For some of those I was home and I suspected nothing between them. Obviously, she never told me that she was sending our sons on sleepovers when he was here and I was away. His wife discovered texts, emails, Facebook messages, etc. between the two of them that were explicit, nasty, etc. and called our home in a rage, screaming at our answering machine for my wife to keep her hands off of her husband. She called me as well and forwarded me all of this. My wife denied it at first, before the evidence piled in, and only confessed when I confronted her with the packet of emails, etc. that her cousin had sent me in the mail. This has torn her family apart as now her own sister does not speak with her and obviously her cousin's side of the family wants nothing to do with her or her family anymore. My wife's sister still stays in touch with me but only, I think, to keep up with her nephews. She will not speak to her sister. We went to counseling with our pastor and my wife swore that this was a one-time thing. There had been no other men, and that it would never happen again if I would forgive her and give her a second chance. Her cousin divorced her husband and told me that my wife had simply been one of several he'd been messing around with. But every time that I look at my wife, I see her in another man's arms and it is making me insane. I do not trust her one bit even though I haven't seen one thing to suspect in these past 2 years. Maybe because I didn't see anything the first time. How did any of you learn to trust your spouse again? I love her very much and I forgive her, but I cannot go the rest of my life with suspicion in my thoughts all the time. If I even see her smile when she's talking with another man, it makes me paranoid. Can I learn to trust her again? Because this is eating me up inside. Comments: wow, a whole year. That is a long time, and as many have said here, would have involved a lot of her time, planning. The thing I would struggle with is that it wasn't an affair where she was swept up in something crazy and then realized her error and stopped it. She purposely maintained and nurtured the affair. You also say you had a good marriage and I believe you. I felt the same. So, having been cheated on and now a year down the road, I think that even I, a very forgiving person, would really battle with trust. One more thing I would like you to challenge yourself on. You say you have forgiven her, but have you really? I thought the same, but forgiveness for something like this can take years. We are very good at burying things like this deep down and pretending we have forgiven someone just to cope and try to move on. Ask yourself again. Only you know how much you can take. You've said you love her very much, but do you think your love can get you through this? Do you think that in years to come you'll be able to deal with the movies playing in your head of the two of them thrusting away at each other in your own home? Probably in your own bed. If you can, kudos to you. I know in my heart that if I had discovered this about my wife, I would never in a million years be able to forgive her and stay in the marriage. I wouldn't be able to exit fast enough. I'm always amazed at the number of people who are able to reconcile with a wayward spouse. I know I never could. OP responds: we've counseled with our pastor, but my wife says she wants to move on. Truthfully, I am not comfortable talking about it. It makes me feel like a failure that she sought something from another man. She's Asian and I think she is already ashamed, more so due to her culture and upbringing, that her parents know of this through family ties, etc. And, yes, that ship has sailed as far as a physical relationship, but I do not feel a connect to her emotionally anymore. We talk, but, as you can imagine, I feel that I have to guard myself in what I reveal to her. Is that from lack of trust? And I know many pilots have that rep for fooling around. I vow to you, on my grandfather's grave, I never even thought about betraying my vow to her. I've spent a lot of nights in hotel rooms while the flight crews went out, some of them up to no good behind spouses or partners' backs. I only know that it started one weekend, when we visited up there to see my brother and his wife in Elmira. She said her and her cousin's husband, were alone one afternoon while his wife was still at work and it just happened. I know, hard to believe anyone that says, it just happened. Something like that doesn't just happen. There must have been something that led up to that. So, yes, she has lost my trust right there because I know it never just happened. Suddenly one day, when I did press her on it, she just cries and babbles incoherently. When I ask her if she loves me, she cries. My parents are married 51 years. Divorce, even in this day and age, is luckily foreign to my family. I don't know of anyone, even cousins, that's ever been. I can't imagine going on not able to trust someone, and I can't imagine going on without them. I will ask her to see a counselor, and I am considering ending this marriage, but it will wreck me to not be around my sons. Honestly, looking in the mirror, I think that I am staying because I love my sons so much. They don't know of what happened and I wouldn't tell them. Let them be innocent at least. We sit and watch TV, kids between us, and I feel they are all that keeps me there some days because many of you are right. I simply am tortured by imagining what went on in our home as I trusted her. I wonder if he was there, in our bed, as we talked on the phone, or if she was sharing intimacies with him about our marriage. I could never do that to her, spite her with an affair of my own. I'd rather just walk away. But my sons, I treasure them. So, yes, I am torn, and I don't know if I have truly forgiven. I do not trust her, so how have I forgiven her? I don't know the answers. I thought we had a good intimate relationship physically. She was always happy when I got home from a trip, and I was happy to be home. Physically, things seemed fine. Maybe she was lonely. I don't know. I've certainly spent time blaming myself if she did. Like I stated, I am very torn on this and don't want to lose my sons at the very least. Few weeks later, last Friday, I came home from work to find our neighbor, Janet, watching my boys. I could tell by the look on her face and her greeting that something was wrong. She cut me off as I started to inquire where Rose was and said she would take my boys out for dinner with her kids if it was okay. My wife had asked her to be at our house to greet the boys off the school bus. I went to our bedroom and my wife had left me a note that she loved Brian, her cousin's husband, and was leaving to be with him. She'd packed the night before and left with him after dropping our boys at school. So, I spent this week looking for and hiring a nanny to watch my kids until I can get my head together and wrap it around what has happened here. My wife called me last weekend and said that she does not want custody of the boys and wants a divorce. She's shacked up with Brian somewhere. She would not tell me where. Our boys are so confused. I do not even know where to begin, or how, explaining this to them. Thank you to those that supported me. I am crushed. My boys are devastated. I cannot imagine ever trusting anyone ever again. You were right. She could not be trusted. Comments. It's now time to drive the nails in the proverbial coffin. If you have not already done so, get to a lawyer. Give him the note she left you as evidence, and have him immediately file your divorce petition, along with full custody of your kids. Be gentle and loving when you break the news to the boys, offering only that she chose another lifestyle over that of your family, that you don't really know why, but that you suspect that she still loves them so very much for who they are, and that the three of you will persevere together, and most importantly that you will always be there for them, no matter what. You also should share the details of this latest revelation with your cousin's wife, to affect any decision that she may want to make regarding her future with him. Get yourself a lawyer and get full custody of your children first and foremost. Then you have him file for child support. If she doesn't have a job, then she'll need to get one, and if she refuses to pay support, then find a way to have her selfish ass arrested. Make sure that all your finances are in order and all your bank accounts and credit cards are in your name. There's a good chance she's going to want to come back as soon as she finds out that her new guy is banging another woman in some other state, and bet the house it will happen, but you better be prepared for that and don't fall for the crying, because her tears are nothing but acid and they will burn and scar you again. About a week later, OP responds, I have heated it and got a lawyer this week. I'm filing for divorce, child support, and seeking full custody of the kids. My sister, she is single, is relocating to stay with us and help me out as I cannot simply walk away from my work. I got a leave of absence for 30 days, but I'd like to get back as I'm spending far too much time down in the dumps over this. I feel as if I am living a horrible nightmare, and the boys are crying at bedtime about their mommy not being here anymore. I canceled all of our credit cards, except the Amex, and took her name off of that. I didn't even think to ask the lawyer about things like auto insurance, life insurance, etc. But my brother, he is not a lawyer, seems to think that as long as we're still married that I cannot take her name off of those. I'm feeling pretty down, but spending time with the boys has picked up my spirits. We kicked a soccer ball around today and just hung out and talked. You are all right. I have to get her out of my system. The feeling of being betrayed by someone I trusted completely is immense though. Story 2. Okay, here's the deal. We've been married for 15 years with 5 kids. I had suspected for many years that something wasn't right, but I didn't have any proof. Although I would confront him on many occasions regarding certain things that were amiss in our marriage, he would reassure me, blame me, or whatever. And I never researched further. Stupid, I know. I had even gone to counseling, after marriage counseling failed a few years ago, to learn how to love and respect him while in a loveless marriage. Before the recent holidays, I checked my husband's phone and found a voicemail from a co-worker, a married woman with children. After much research and disclosure, they had been in an extensive emotional and physical affair daily for at least 6+ years. After I confronted him, he ended things via email with her that weekend and has been striving to be honest, transparent, and save our marriage. He's been affectionate, thoughtful, engaged, and well, everything he hasn't been prior. I've never seen this part of him, ever. If I didn't find that voicemail, they probably would have continued. One moment he is content in their fantasy adulterous affair and lying to me repeatedly, but once I find out, he decides he really does want me after all these years. Not sure what to believe. I question if he is just not wanting the divorce. He's doing everything he can to keep me, including MC, and I see I would love to be loved by him. if this new person is really who he is. But I don't even know him apparently, and I don't know that I can get past all that he has done. I do feel like I need to try to work through this and see what God can do in our lives before I just give up. Has anyone attended Family Dynamics Institute's A New Beginning seminar? I have read a lot on the internet about affairs. I have yet to find an affair recovery based on this same intensity and length of time. Anyone? Also, I'm getting mixed counsel about him changing jobs due to the co-worker. Stay at the job to focus on R or move. If we move and change jobs, some say it will interfere with R because of the new stresses. Yet, every morning, I wonder if she or he will start this again without my knowledge and anxiety gets the best of me. But whatever, I can't stay in this city. Too many triggers with all of their lunch. How do I choose to move with him when I'm not sure this new person he is showing is legit? I'm only 2.5 months out, so this is all raw for me. Yes, I called her husband the next day. He had no clue. He told me he found phone calls exchanged and a love letter over 4 years ago. He confronted his wife back then. She said it was just emotional affairs and it was over. She lied on both accounts. He never informed me back then. Stupid man. I wrote her an email when her husband contacted me to say that she was denying everything and wanted my proof. So I sent it to him. I told her, her husband and my husband about the damage and hurt they both did to my children. Attacked her as a mom. Told both of them to stay away from each other and allow him to restore his relationship with his kids. Threatened to expose her to her family. Got their names, info online. Gave her some helpful hints like, keep your panties on. Find a way to love her own husband. Be a wife. Mother of honor. Seek God, and not be so easy and convenient by providing a co-worker's apartment or her own home to have sex. Already had him and I checked for STDs and, thankfully, we are fine. He was also banking his entire future on her taking a pill every a.m. And, thankfully, she never got pregnant. Idiot. We have 2 young adult children, teen twins and a 7-year-old. Yes, they all know because my youngest came in the house when he was to be outside the day I found out. He heard the word affair and asked his older brothers what it means. My 20-year-old was there to intercede, but this is just devastating all around. Yes, he set up MC immediately. We go weekly. He seems to have done a 180, changed his work phone to a personal phone so the records come to the house. Allowed me to put a GPS app on his phone. Has had no contact other than work related with OW. He copies me on the emails, put together his resume and is willing to quit his well-paying job and move. Contacts me throughout the day. Sending pics of his computer screen to show a time stamp and where he is, etc. Has been reading assigned books. We have been repainting, decluttering and getting the house ready to sell for some future date. Like I said, he seems to really be trying. Quitting job. We need the healthcare and one shouldn't quit a job until they have another one, right? That is a slow process. Ugh, he has sent out his resume but hasn't flooded the market with it. I'm sure he is also afraid that I won't be able to get past the 6 years and also due to the conflicting info we received. So, yes, he is willing to find another job and move. I'm the one taking the risk, uprooting the younger children, having to leave all my friends and support. Leaving my older children who are establishing themselves. I went into IC immediately. My anxiety is pretty bad. Had a panic attack that left me on the floor of my living room with my lips blue. I am a public speaker and am currently unable to speak in front of a crowd now. I'm getting stronger every day, though. I think I've been in shock. I don't know how to stop the constant flooding of thoughts of this that hit me all the time. I have researched and kept records of their emails, credit card statements, etc. They had slept together at least weekly if not more. They walked around his work area together. Went shopping together and he took work off to spend time with her. They never dealt with their own children, handled the stresses of life together. It was a fantasy world of who they wanted to present to each other. They lied about who they really are as well as their home life. The hardest thing for me is the cruelness of the length of time. I asked him why he didn't just cut me loose so I could have made my own choices. I could function as a woman, mom from a healthy place and maybe find someone else who would want us. He doesn't have an answer. He says he was selfish and never intended to divorce me. How noble to keep her on the side. He knew that I was always trying to find the good in our marriage and that I was trying. He knew I was solid in my beliefs and has always loved how I am as a mom. He felt guilty and knew he was hurting me. He was distant from me and yet, he would give me enough over the years to show he loved me and wanted this marriage. I just thought he was someone who wasn't as affectionate or engaged as I wanted. I wouldn't divorce someone just because he isn't exactly what I want. That's why I stayed. I just didn't know the truth. He said that he was planning to end it with her. It became a routine her and he knew it wasn't real or going anywhere. That's why this is messing with my head. Now, I'm beautiful to him. Now he sees me and wants to really talk to me. He can't get enough of me. I am a highly physical person, so that was always my biggest complaint with him. He thanks me every night for giving him another day. It's a bit overwhelming. Taking time for myself. I'm really not in a position to think clearly yet. I'm still just trying to function well. What I do know is that I'm not afraid of him going back to her. If that's the character of woman he wants, He needs to go. I deserve better. My kids deserve better. We have more than enough money that I would be just fine if we divorced. I don't need him. I have to determine if I want him. I just don't want to be made a fool of again. That is my biggest fear. He says it is over with her. He seems to be able to compartmentalize like no one's business. According to our MC, she figures that's why he could live these two worlds for so long. I do question if this is just a laying low period for both or one of them. Her husband told me they are working on their marriage, but I don't trust her either. Why do I want to stay with him? I feel I owe to myself, us and our children to try to this. Right now, his 23-year-old daughter and his sons don't respect him. If we can have an affair recovery, it would be a huge testimony to what God can do in a marriage. Honestly, I don't know him, and he doesn't know me. Who I thought I loved didn't exist. So, it's a decision to try to find out who we are now. No, I will never trust him completely. I don't think I will ever trust another person like I had with him again. I told him it's like he strapped a massive boulder to me that I have to drag behind me. Over time, it may erode and pieces break off. But I will forever have to painfully drag this with me. It is a reminder of what he chose to do. It's a life sentence for me, regardless of whether I stay with him or not. I have no idea what is going on in her home, and he hasn't had any contact with her. She has avoided walking by his office or directly contacting him, unless absolutely needed for work. I think I scared her because she knows I have every right to humiliate her to her family. I, unlike her, do have restraint when it comes to knowingly hurting someone else and her children. I found out Thanksgiving Day. The last correspondence was her husband sending me an email stating they were going to work on their marriage the Tuesday after. I sincerely doubt she told him the entire truth. She didn't the first time they were caught over 4 years ago, and she adamantly denied it that entire weekend until I sent him the proof. The physical affair, it started around 2016 from what I could find, with the emotional affair before that. Obviously, she had a key to a co-worker's apartment about 5 to 10 minutes from work. They used that as well as her home, about 15 minutes from work. I'm a pretty good researcher when I know what to be looking for. I could have worked for the government. I triangulated the days of emails I have with my texts to him and where our credit card were used. I can almost tell you what days they had slept together versus just eating lunch. I have so much evidence it's mind-boggling, and a lot of history to get past. What I do know is that although he may have said he loved her, he didn't really want her in her life permanently. He has never had respect for women who cheats, and certainly not for a mom who cheats. Ironic, isn't it? I had even said to the counselor that I felt like he hasn't had to suffer. He went straight from having her or me to fill his needs to having me. He hasn't had to do without most of his comforts. Like he still comes home to dinner being made, etc. Our pastor suggested he stay in this household to see what he has done to us, and for him to start the process of restoring by serving us and providing what he hasn't in the past. The counselor mentioned PTSD. No, I don't always do such a great job. I struggle fighting these thoughts of them, triggers, and, well, I've said the F word more in the last 2.5 months than I ever have in my 45 years of living. I'm normally a positive, happy, outgoing person, so this angry me is very frustrating for me. I think I managed to do a crash course in researching about affairs, affair recovery, and finding my legs again. Watching so many videos on here has been so helpful. There's a lot of wisdom here. There were a few reasons why we opted not to do counseling with the pastor. 1. Stated that divorce is an option if there is unrepentant adultery. I know that God placed divorce as an option for sin because he knows the devastation and damage it causes long after forgiveness. In my H's case, this was not a one-night affair in which he felt guilty the next day and confessed. This was a long time, a lot to process on my end. 2. The pastor felt that if he is truly committed to God, then he would put up the boundaries at work that are needed and not be tempted, so he shouldn't have to leave his job. Seriously, I said to him, so if you have an alcoholic and he gives his life over to God, do you encourage him to continue working at a bar? And let's not forget that an adulterous woman is on the other end of this who has her own abilities to entice and seek him out. Ugh, really upset me because other co-workers know about his relationship with her or suspected it. I am the office joke. 3. The pastor wanted us to end all counseling with our marriage counselors, and I see he wanted to handle this based on the Bible, not feelings and emotions, and no other interference. That's good for some situations, except that with this, the emotions and feelings are vital in my recovery. I don't like my husband much either right now, but whatever. Truth-worthy. I'd like to think that my God can change people, but he sees their hearts. I can only go by past and present actions. Right now, my H's present actions are only 2.5 months of being truly kind, thoughtful, and loving. He's only about 1 month of being honest as the truth trickled in about the length and extent of the affair as I found stuff that he forgot. Seriously, how do you forget that you were planning to take your AP on a business trip? or that she was in my house and on my bed. Oh, the pain is immense. I want to throw him out today. I'm spiraling and angry today. I feel like he should go to her and quit trying to change who he is for me. It all feels fake anyhow. She is staying away from him because I threatened her. Maybe I should just let the two of them go and see what they do. I wanted to secretly email my H from a new account, pretend to be her and see how he reacted to it. I don't play games, though. I'm really not into all of this. It's not what I signed up for when I said I do. Just so ducking frustrating to have her and them in my head all the time. I am a homeschooling mom and motivational speaker. I had to give up another speaking engagement for later this month as well as a huge one for April in front of hundreds of people. My panic attacks since the reveal won't let me get in front of a crowd. I feel like he's took even more from me. I don't even know who I am on certain days. Other days, I'm awesome. But today isn't one of them. Going to the gym to lift. After D-Day, I felt such a relief and weight off of me. Oh, that explains why he was behaving like that. I was right all along. I'm not paranoid. Does that sound ridiculous? I was actually relieved, and I realized that I could make informed decisions now that I knew. I'm not the joke anymore. I think I would separate only if I weren't willing to, or I absolutely see the wisdom in having some space to breathe and think, though. I could put him in our basement bedroom, apartment for some distance. But I'm not willing to give up the bonding. Yes, I know that he hasn't been deprived in that department. Yes, I know he should be forced to feel that and see how he handles that. But I guess it's my turn to be selfish. When we filled out a needs questionnaire years ago, one of my highest needs in a marriage was bonding and affection. Yep, I love bonding. I thoroughly enjoy him. Yes, I want to make sure he is willing to fill those needs for me on a consistent basis as part of learning who he is now. Again, grateful for the anonymity on here. Man. Someone mentioned whether I love him. I have always loved and respected that man. I have seen the worst sides of him and still felt that way. When he had no job, when he was a jerk before and during this affair, etc. I don't know anything but loving him unconditionally. Now, post D-Day, he is promising and willing to be what I have always wanted. I have never seen this side of him. He is like a brand new person. Yes, it could be fake, but only time will tell. He thanks me every day for giving him another day. He seems to be humbled, which is huge with his massive ego. He is more than willing to find a new job and move us to another state. Honestly, he is willing to do most anything to save this marriage so far, but he is afraid I will bail on him. I don't blame him because at 3 months out, I'm all over the place some days. If I were him, I would only seek a new job if I knew my spouse was committed to our. This process of putting out resumes and finding a job could take months to fly to interviews and so forth. He'd be leaving a very well-paying job. So, I am not out to ruin his life, which just affects me and our children in the end. I want both of us to be wise for our futures as well. I'm hoping that as he goes through the process of finding a new job, we will be rebuilding our marriage or I will be seeing if he is legit or not. My husband chose to burn everything we ever created or built on this altar of his emotional and physical affair and other choices. Everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, including any pride I had. I'm standing in a heap of rubble. It's quite liberating, actually. It explains a lot about my marriage, my dignity, the state or quality of being worthy of honor or respect. Now that's part of my driving force right now. That is what I want to protect and keep intact. I think I mentioned that we homeschool. I don't discount public school and my oldest son graduated from public school. But there are a few reasons we choose to homeschool currently. My one twin is wicked smart. He is in 7th grade doing Algebra 2 and that is very easy for him. He's writing a book. He could start classes at our community college this fall as a 13-year-old. Public school here won't bus him to the high school for higher classes. They teach to age, not ability. My youngest has severe food allergies, egg, milk, peanut and apple, and the thought of him being away from his meds makes me concerned. So, just to have a D, I will need to completely uproot them. It seems a bit selfish and unserving to them if I do that as a knee-jerk, ticked off and hurt reaction. I know they are resilient and will be fine, regardless. I am a product of a divorce as well. However, they need a mom who is operating from a position of strength and not just being emotional, making these life-altering decisions that affect them greatly. I am not concerned about getting a job. I worked prior. I know what I'm capable of doing. I'm marketable and interview well. I still have that all in me. Unlike my husband and that adulterous mom of 2. I don't just flippantly make decisions that affect others. Please don't view me as weak. One of the most powerful things people can do is recognize their limitations, know when to play their ace cards, and to look for opportunities to learn and grow in every circumstance. I believe I will get where I need to be. My comment: what do you guys think of these two? I have also uploaded different kind of stories recently, so check them out if you haven't. Stay safe and strong out there.